The spectral light, a beacon of utter negation, surged, filling Kaelen with a dread that surpassed even the ancient entity's presence.
He recoiled, not from the void's familiar chaos, but from this alien brilliance that promised oblivion, not rebirth.
His grand design, the careful weaving of nascent voids, had inadvertently torn open a wound in existence itself. This was no rival, this was an antithesis, a cosmic parasite that fed on the very concept of being. He had sought to master the void, to sculpt it into a new reality, but he had instead invited its ultimate destroyer. The light pulsed, not with heat, but with a chilling emptiness that leached the very will to exist from his cosmic form. Images flashed through his mind, the dying embers of his homeworld, the whispers of Malin's final agony, all now dwarfed by this new, horrifying dawn. He had been the weaver, the architect of unmaking, but now he was merely a pawn, a sacrifice on a scale he had never conceived. The spectral entity, a nascent star of pure negation, expanded, its tendrils of light lashing out, not to destroy, but to unmake. Every atom of Kaelen's being screamed in protest as the light began to unravel the very threads of his essence. He felt his connection to the void fraying, his power diminishing not through resistance, but through sheer, overwhelming erasure. This was not a battle to be won, it was an extinction event. His desperate gambit to weaponize the void against the ancient dread had unleashed something far more terrifying, a fundamental opposition to existence itself. He had gambled with cosmic forces, and the dice had rolled towards annihilation. He remembered the prophecies, the ancient tales of entities that predated the stars, beings of pure concept that existed before form. He had dismissed them as myth, as the ramblings of forgotten gods. Now, he understood. This spectral light was the echo of that primal void, the silence before creation, amplified and weaponized. He was facing the ultimate end, not through destruction, but through a complete and utter cessation of being. He tried to gather his power, to muster the cosmic energy that had once defined him, but it felt like grasping at smoke. The light was not just consuming him, it was erasing the very possibility of his existence. His thoughts, once clear and sharp, began to blur, the edges of his consciousness dissolving. He had sought to control the darkness, to sculpt it, but he had failed to understand its deepest, most ancient secrets. The void was not merely emptiness, it was a canvas for forces far more profound and terrible than he had ever imagined. He had played with fire, and now he was being consumed by the spectral flame of non-existence. His grand design, the rewriting of reality's rules, was dissolving into nothingness. He felt a strange, terrifying calm descend as his being began to fragment. Perhaps this was the ultimate purpose of the void, to return all to the primal silence from which it came. But as his consciousness winked out, a single, defiant thought remained: if he was to be unmade, so too would this spectral light be known. He would leave a mark, even in his dissolution. He focused his remaining will, not on fighting, but on observing, on recording this ultimate horror. He saw, as his vision blurred, that the spectral light was not just expanding outwards, but inwards, consuming itself in its own relentless negation. It was a paradox, a self-devouring entity. And in that final, fleeting moment of understanding, Kaelen realized that his undoing might also be the undoing of this ancient dread. But this realization came too late, as the spectral light enveloped him completely, plunging him into an abyss of pure, silent nothingness. His form, his consciousness, his very essence, ceased to be. Yet, as the last flicker of his existence faded, a single, infinitesimal spark of his will remained, a ghost in the machine of cosmic destruction. This spark, imbued with Kaelen's final observation, began to propagate, a subtle whisper of disruption within the spectral light's own self-consuming paradox. It was a desperate gamble, a final act of defiance from a being on the brink of non-existence. The void, once Kaelen's domain, now held a new, terrifying truth, and a faint, almost imperceptible glimmer of hope for whatever might come next. The spectral light pulsed, but now, within its pure negation, there was a subtle dissonance, a hint of something unmade within the unmaking itself. The void had claimed its weaver, but the story was far from over. What had Kaelen truly unleashed, and what would remain when the spectral light finally consumed itself? The silence that followed was not an end, but a profound, terrifying question echoing through the cosmos.